So I might get started. Thanks very much for joining us. It's a intimate crowd, as most of these have been actually. But hopefully those who are online have a bit of an idea who Melbourne Data Analytics Platform are, but hopefully we'll know a bit more after this session. I would like to start by acknowledging we're gathered both physically and virtually on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We've been custodians for the unceded lands for many thousands of years. The University of Melbourne is situated on the lands of the Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung, the Dja Dja Wurrung people, the Yorta Nation, and the Wadawurrung people. I'd like to acknowledge and pay respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. So I'm going to share my screen. As mentioned, I'll be recording the session today, and again, appreciate those who are able to join us today. We are doing these faculty presentations really to give you some information on the upcoming MDAP collaboration round. My name's Andrew Siebel. I'm the platform manager for MDAP, or Melbourne Data Analytics Platform. And we are a team of research data specialists working to enable data-intensive research across the disciplines at the university, formed as the workforce component of the Petascale Campus Initiative, or PCI. The PCI was a 5-year plan to accelerate the university's capacity for data-intensive research. And here you can see that the PCI has been structured to support an academic-led vision, embedding a process of continual improvement through consolidation, development, and resourcing for both our digital science infrastructure and the workforce that will help us maximise our use of that infrastructure. As I said, we're well into that 5-year plan, and the and MDAP was initiated as part of the PCI as the workforce component, and that was about 18 months ago that we started. MDAP is obviously part of a larger infrastructure landscape, and this gives you a bit of an idea of what that looks like across the whole university. So this is a diagram that's provided by Rachel Ramsdale in Chancery, which outlines the 23 platforms across the University of Melbourne research infrastructure landscape, supported primarily through the Melbourne Collaborative Research Infrastructure Program, or MCRIP. Many of these, as you'll probably recognise, are equipment or facility-based platforms with a service-based approach, whereas MDAP is a people-based platform with a collaborative focus. You can see from this slide the significant investment made by the university, but it doesn't really capture the true complexity of the digital research landscape. As I said, whilst the PCI has been structured to support an academic-led vision and is also fully funded by Chancery, MDAP is funded 50% through Chancery and 50% via the 10 academic divisions. Firstly, our focus is very much so on collaboration. So we are an academic unit with a team of highly skilled research data specialists working across the entire research lifecycle, as distinct from a research service provider. MDAP's bottom-up approach allows us to collaborate and engage directly with researchers and research groups. Our team obviously has a broad range of experience and background, which cover a number of disciplines and fields. We're also experts in digital methods and are uniquely positioned to understand the language of computer scientists, data specialists, and data stewards, and even kind of IT specialists who are embedded within faculties. And whilst we're ultimately evaluated on similar metrics to those imposed on traditional teaching and research academics, we also very much so value non-traditional and qualitative research outputs. Now, this diagram is a little bit complex, I know. It's really taken from our recent MDAP brochure, which was circulated to the faculty executive, which shows the cross-faculty interactions and connections to university services that we have facilitated over the last 12 to 18 months. So this shows the all of the academic divisions across the university and some of the key services and other research intensive centres that that we've helped connect people to. Now, focused over here on the left on Melbourne Law School, showing the number of collaborations either complete or underway, which is 3. So we've been able to engage with at the collaboration level with a number of people, and we'll talk to a couple of those case studies and collaborations shortly. It also gives an estimation of the breakdown of either data science, computation, or stewardship work, which has been enabled by our team in MDAP. I'm now going to throw to Emily, who will introduce our team to you. Thanks, Emily.
Thanks, Andrew. So yes, I'm Emily Fitzgerald. I'm one of the research data specialists in the team. As you can see, the workforce component of MDAP is we currently have 21 people following the doubling of the team size earlier this year. This includes our director, Professor Andrew Turpin, Andrew Siebel as our platform manager, Joe, who's our comms specialist, and Ursula, who's a business analyst. And then the rest of the team is made up of research data specialists, with the intention being to build the team to represent as many academic disciplines as possible. So we've got people with experiences in research focuses including archaeology, history, psycholinguistics, computer science, geography, astrophysics, mathematics, artificial intelligence, omics, and there's more as well. So when a researcher engages with an MDAP specialist, you aren't just getting that one person with their particular background, you're getting the access to the skills and experience of the whole team. And we do definitely draw on each other's skills and experience in that way. Next slide, please. So in terms of what the role of a research data specialist is, it is very mixed and very broad. So essentially we bring together the research experience from different domains, both within ourselves and with the other members of the team, together with the skills and knowledge of data stewardship and effectively managing data that we have, as well as computational skills, including cloud and high performance computing, and using and developing novel data analytics. Next slide, please. So this breadth of skills means we can collaborate with you at all points of the research lifecycle, including developing the research questions, helping you work out ways to manage your data, providing intellectual input across the research analysis, developing research software and algorithms, and managing relationships both within the team, within different data and also with other collaborators as well. And we're academic partners, so we'd be contributing to the research, providing intellectual contribution, including co-authoring papers and creating outputs. As well as drawing on these skills, working with the MDAP team means we can introduce you to new technology or technology you mightn't be as familiar with that's relevant to your project or your collaboration. So whether this be working with high performance computing or machine learning, natural language processing, we've got an experience of a range of different software languages and packages. So we can also help introduce you to these technologies and help upskill you in that area as well. Next slide, please. So this is one of the ways that we add value to the university. So we've really got 4 approaches to helping the university, is through these, through research, through these formal collaborations, and as well as small scale projects and one-off consultancies. Also through advocacy, so we can gather together the needs of researchers and groups, both from our collaborations and through our community work, finding out what it is that people need and then feed that back up into the PCI. Consultancy, so working, if people need advice, we're happy to help where we can as well. And community is also a major part of our aim and our role. So networking is an essential part, connecting people, breaking down silos, identifying silos before we can break them down, and promoting collaborative research. So this community is both the academic community across the university and also professional staff in similar roles, such as the data stewards and curators in scholarly services. And so where possible, we try and act as connectors with different people who might not otherwise have worked with each other. Next slide, please. So there's two main ways to work with us. The chief way is through the formal collaborations, which is what we're talking mainly about today, where this is a formal arrangement with an application process with 2 calls a year for collaborations. For projects, the projects are usually expected to be about collaboration usually expected to be about 3 to 6 months, and be something that's of high strategic value to the university and to your discipline. It's a merit-based allocation, and it's not necessarily, we're very keen to work with early career researchers and the like. It's not, having a long backlog. It's the merit of your particular project that you want to work on. And the choice of collaborations isn't made by us, but rather by the Research Allocation Committee. So it's which is made up of independent senior researchers. So the EOIs are currently open, which is just a very short expression of interest form, basically just to get a sense of what it is that you're wanting to do and make sure it's in line with what we can offer. And those close on the 15th of November. And then we will invite full applications from the 26th of November, which will close on the 18th of December, Friday the 18th of December, with the successful collaborations expected to start in early February 2021. Next slide, please. The other way to engage with us is through informal projects. So this is always open. This could be continuing collaborations or small projects that we've picked up from working with people. It's always open, but it's obviously subject to team availability and the time that people have. And we're also always available to give advice and help point people in the right direction. So you can always, if you've got a question that you think might be related to MDAP or you're not quite sure where to go, you can contact us at the email address there, the mdap-info@unimel. And we get back to you as quickly as possible. We're pretty prompt with that. And it might be that we can give advice, or it might be that we can point you in the direction of another service across the university that is better suited to help you there. Next slide, please. So having a look at the last round. So this is a quick snapshot of the last round. So we received 60 applications for 60 expressions of interest earlier this year across all 10 of the different faculties, including 4 applications from law. The process that we followed, we do a triage of these expressions of interest, looking through again to see if there's some that we think are better suited to a different platform. There are others that were fairly similar in scope and what they're trying to do. So we actually introduced people to each other so they could combine their services, combining their applications, sorry. And we invited people to put in full applications, and from that we received 40 full applications. And so then we go through an internal assessment process, put the recommendations to the RAC, and then the RAC made their assessment and came up with 17 collaborations that the MDAP team are currently working on, which goes across 15.4 FTE of the time. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. And now I'm going to hand over to Geordie, who will be able to talk about a collaboration that we've worked on.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. So we're now onto the part of the talk where there's just a couple of case studies from sort of past and current collaborations. The one I'm going to be speaking about is LawTech, which was one of the 2019 collaborations. So it's one of the first collaborations that was approved through MDAP. So this collaboration, we worked on it as a collaboration for the first 6 months, and then in the next 6 months, I worked on it as a project. It's grown substantially since when it first started. So now it still involves the Melbourne Law School and MDAP, but also it now has collaborators from the School of Computing and Information Systems. So next slide, please. I'll explain quickly what law tech's about. As you are lawyers and know that reading court judgments is a big part of the legal profession. It's something that lawyers and judges spend a lot of time doing. The question we had was whether or not it's possible to use the current level of artificial intelligence, computational natural language processing, whether we can use the current state of the technology to help reduce the amount of reading that lawyers and judges need to do. So we've set it up as a simple supervised learning problem. So essentially, when you go through a court judgment, you'd have 3 classes. The green class corresponds to the facts of the case. The blue class corresponds to the reasoning as explained in the court judgment, and the red class corresponds to the conclusions that the judges made in the judgment. The Melbourne Law School basically manually annotated a initial set of judgments, and then we use that to train the machine learning natural language processing models, and then we did the validation, the testing. The results at this point have gotten pretty good, to the point where we decided to write up and submit a paper for peer review. So I think that's all I have time for. I'm happy to answer questions if anyone is interested to talk a bit later on. Thanks.
Okay, it's me now, I think, is it?
Yep, over to you, Josh. Sorry.
Yeah, hi, my name's Josh, everyone, and I'm a PhD student at Monash University, but I'm a visiting scholar at Melbourne Uni. My supervisor is Rebecca Giblin. She joined the faculty last year at Melbourne Uni, and our collaboration is part of Rebecca's ARC Future Fellowship called the Authors Interest Project, and that project looks at how copyright law can be reformed to better protect the interests of authors. And this collaboration investigates one particular feature of US copyright law, and it is a feature that allows any creator of a copyrighted work, so a songwriter, a book author, for example, to if they've signed a contract to give away their publishing or recording rights to a publisher, as is the standard practice, then after 35 years, they can actually file to terminate those rights assignments and get their rights back. And this right cannot be contracted out of. It's there for the reason that Congress in the US thought that many authors and songwriters, etc., often sign contracts at the early stages of their career. They're often poorly advised or have no legal advice. They can't afford it, and they're often in a very unequal bargaining position when it is compared to the larger record companies and the book publishers. And so they might sign deals that don't give them a fair opportunity to partake in the rewards of their works. The classic example might be an author who, writes a song and then signs it away for $200. Or in popular culture, you have had cases where the author or creator of Superman signed it away for very little. And those debates have been ongoing. And this termination right is one way that the US Congress has sought to give authors an opportunity to get a second chance at monetizing the value in their works at a point when the value is better known. So when Superman was created, for example, you wouldn't know what it's going to achieve, but 35 years later, we all know Superman is a massive hit, and so the author's in a stronger bargaining position. Now, that's a bit of the background about the research, but this particular collaboration seeks to empirically document various trends in the use of this this law by looking at a online catalog that the US Copyright Office hosts. Basically, what happens is whenever an artist wants to use this termination right, they send a notice to the publisher and they say, "Dear publisher, I would like to exercise my termination rights in relation to this particular work. It will take effect on this date." And they send that notice to the publisher, and there's a whole bunch of formalities that need to be met. They also are required to file a copy of that notice with the Copyright Office. When the Copyright Office receives that notice, they will file it in their physical office in Washington, D.C., but they will also put a record of the document on their online catalog, which can be accessed by anyone for free online. It's important to note this is not the actual document like the letter, but it is a record of the document that states who filed the notice, who's it filed against, what work does it relate to, when was it recorded, etc. And so this data is very useful for current debates that are ongoing, not just in the US, but around the world, over how copyright law can better help authors, many of whom will sign not great deals at the start of their careers. For example, in Canada, it was in 2019, one statutory committee actually proposed a very similar system to allow authors to terminate their rights after 25 years. And so much has been written in the academic literature about the termination right, but very little has been written on how it's actually being used, and very little on using this data. So that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to just see, look, who's terminating their copyrights, what kinds of works are being terminated, how are the record companies, publishers, etc., responding to these, etc. And we believe we could see those trends from the data. So if you could move to the next slide, Andrew. So this is a screenshot of the catalog or the search results page of the catalog. The catalog doesn't allow you to browse, it allows you to put in various search terms. And so what we did is, over the course of this year, through an informal consults with Daniel Russo-Batterham, and then in the second half of the year, formal collaboration, we have identified various search phrases that allow us to, with some confidence, get search results for all the termination notices that have been filed to date. And so when you type in a search in the Copyright Office catalog, you will get a set of results like this. And if you were to click on one of those, it would take you to a picture of a record. So that is just one example of that. And if you can move to the next slide, Andrew. This page shows a GIF or GIF of the code that has been constructed. And Daniel has very efficiently built a scraper that actually automatically searches the database and retrieves the text data there. And so you'll see that this is how the scraper operates. It clicks on it does the search, clicks on the web page, and then gets the actual data from there. And it's a bit hard to see, but you can see that there's the GIF will show you the various types of works, the parties filing, the parties being filed against, etc. And so all that data is through Python put into Python, and then through various analysis methods, we've cleaned it and gotten it to a stage where we're confident that that can be analyzed. And that process has been quite long and arduous because of the fact that there's no we've had to come up with filters based on the phrases that we've identified. And so that process has taken time, but I'm quite confident at this stage. So this will lend itself to a number of outputs because the data set is quite large. And so we're looking forward to what the outputs will look like. If you are interested in looking at some preliminary results, you can go to our website, authorsinterest.org. And that will, I'll put that in the chat actually, authorsinterest.org. And that one of the posts there shows some preliminary results there of some of this research. So that's kind of what the research is. And also one really valuable thing has been the training I have received from Daniel on how to use Python. When I started, I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea. And Daniel very calmly and patiently walked with me through the code, such that I got to a point where I was able to actually write it out myself without assistance. But that was after only Daniel had invested the time. He's also put me onto a Pandas coding bootcamp, which I've been doing, and that's been extremely helpful. So both from a collaboration perspective and from a training perspective, I can heartily recommend the collaborations and the whole MDAP team. I think they've been fantastic. We certainly wouldn't have been able to do the research anywhere near as comprehensively as we have been doing now. So yeah, if you'd like to know more, I'd be happy to chat. I'm sure Rebecca would be too. But otherwise, that's sort of what we've been doing with MDAP this year. Back to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Josh. Rebecca, at this stage, I don't know whether you want to add anything else from your perspective.
I thought that was pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Maybe for the most part, I'm happy to be here for questions if people want to talk about the experience. But one thing that I would sort of mention for people who are here and who might be interested in working with MDAP is to think about some of these training possibilities for your doctoral students and your postdocs, because it really has been terrific to see how much Josh has been able to learn as a result of this, and me as well. And see how those methods that are being learned as part of this are going to translate into being able to do other kinds of research later on when we don't necessarily have the MDAP director support anymore. And I'd also say, I think one of the really terrific things about working with MDAP is how great the data research specialists have been about being able to understand the problems that we have and translate that into the technical support. That's not always the case when you have a multidisciplinary collaboration. Sometimes it can be really quite difficult for people from different disciplines to talk to each other. And that hasn't been the experience with MDAP at all. So if you're thinking about maybe doing collaboration, but you're a little bit unsure because you feel like maybe you don't know the technology well enough, or you're not even quite sure about exactly how to enunciate the question you're trying to get to or to translate that, then I'd really encourage you to get in touch with them anyway. And I think you might be pleasantly surprised.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate that. And thanks Josh again for helping us out there, and to Emily and Geordie. So on the screen here, you'll see a couple of different places where you can get some more information. Obviously, our website. You can email us at any time at mdap-info if you're wanting to ask any questions or have any queries at all about either collaborations or any other interaction engagement you want to have with MDAP, and you can follow us on Twitter. So I'm just going to stop sharing and throw the floor open. If there are any questions, happy to take them now. We've got a bit of time. Or if you're still thinking of things, obviously you can follow up later via that shared inbox. So feel free to unmute if you're wanting to ask a question. If not, that's quite all right too. We can there'll be more information. I think the hopefully the email will come out, if it hasn't already, through the research office, advertising the opening of the EOIs. That should come through to you if it hasn't already. And as Emily explained, that the EOI process, I think, is pretty straightforward, relatively quick to complete. So just going to stop recording.